So a few years back, we visited the Malaya Tropical, or the Tropicala, if you want to be fancy about it, in Dominican Republic, and we had a really great time. But there are a few concerns with this. You know that saying, "Be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it." Well, here's my story when it comes to that. Uh, One of my few prerequisites for going to a place is I like to have a big campus. I like to tour around. I hate feeling boxed in, especially if you're going to be 7 or 8 days. I'll get right to it. If you look at the arrow here, that's where our room was. Okay? By the beach, by the pools. On paper, it all kind of makes sense. However, as we flip the map over, that's where all the restaurants were. You really can't tell on the map, looking at it this way, how massive this resort is, but it is absolutely huge. Hope you like trolleys because it's the only way you're going to get around this resort and really thoroughly enjoy yourself. But we're going to get to that right away here. This is actually a shot that I took the moment we had just checked in, and they're bringing us to the room. And like I said before, we're on the first part of the front part of the campus. We're going to the back end where our room was. You need a trolley. Now, basically, for the most part, the premium suites are always on the back of the resort because that's where the pool is, and that's where all the beaches are, and some of the bars and all that other good stuff. This sort of created a bit of a logistical nightmare, and I'll explain why. Your A lot of what you do throughout the day, depending on what you're doing, is dependent on this trolley. And the trolleys don't necessarily come on the hour, every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes. They kind of just come, right? They come when they come. I'm sure there's something of a schedule that they would try to adhere to, but the reality is this. There were quite often, many times that the trolley would come, it would just be completely packed. And there was no room for us, thus we had to wait for the next trolley. That could have been 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a half hour. There were quite a few times that we kind of just gave up because after the third or fourth trolley, it's just not happening. You'd have to either wait for a couple hours for either the dinner hour to pass or the lunch hour to pass and then try again. Or you just kind of stuck on that side of the resort. Now, truth be told, throughout the day, breakfast and lunch accommodations were made on the beach side of the resort as well as the front side of the resort. Okay. However, the dinner accommodations did not exist on our side of the resort. So you were sworn to that trolley in the evening. The reality also is this. It's dinner time, you get dressed up, you shower, you've been in the beach and the pool all day. You want to clean up, you want to freshen up, you want to look your best, right? It's 90 degrees, the humidity's 90%. Waiting outside for a half hour, 40 minutes, everyone's hair kind of gets all funky, you get sweaty, you get, it's not the way you want to start your evening. And there were a handful of times that maybe at the middle of the night we just decide, hey, let's go out. We're not tired right now. Let's go try to do something. We would stand out there for a half hour and you'd give up. Once in a blue moon, you'd get lucky and there'd be a gentleman that would be on the trolley, maybe returning back from his shift. And they would be pretty open about it. If you gave them $5 or $3 or whatever it is, they'll drive you wherever you want to go on the trolley. But you can't depend on that as a form of transportation, right? Case in point, like I have this all sped up. This is literally a shot of us going from our room from point A to point B. It's the back end beach side of the resort all the way to the front of the resort. I have it all sped up, obviously, but just to give you an example. And if you want, I'm going to add this to the end of this video in its entirety, not sped up. Okay, trolley aside, let's start talking about some of the positive things about this resort because it does have quite a bit to offer. So I vividly remember how good the food was here. We were thoroughly impressed with anything that pertained to meat. For some bizarre reason, if you had chicken, seafood, steak, anything of that matter, it always just seemed over the top. That was a consensus that my kids had. That was a consensus my wife and I had. Not that they messed vegetables and rice up, but something with meat. Everything with the meat there, whether they marinated it differently or how they prepared it and cooked it or just cared for it, absolutely phenomenal. We did a couple of the specialty restaurants, but for the most part, due to the proximity of where our room was and where the beach and the pool was, we did stick very close to the buffet, which is a lot easier because the kids were so young at the time. So the food here was absolutely delicious. So where I'm going to spend a little bit more time on is where this resort really blew our minds was with the beach. The beach is huge and it's absolutely beautiful. There's tons and tons of room to kind of spread out. You're not going to be elbow to elbow with the other patrons of the resort. The sand was like stepping on powder. It was like super super soft, just impossibly clean, if you want to call it that way. There was always someone raising the sand and making sure no one left any garbage behind. And then just even kind of like hanging out if you wanted to just enjoy the, sitting down and relaxing. There was so much that was going out there in the ocean. You see like these pirate ship excursions. People would walk over to you. Like this guy had a pet monkey, and like it wasn't even. I mean, sure, donations are welcome, but you would go around and just let the monkey sit on you, or if you had like he had a bird sometimes, and you could take a picture with it, and things like that. Everyone was super super friendly. People would walk up and down selling different wares, right? Seashells and flip flops and whatnot. The water was crystal clear. There were times we'd go, neck deep in the water, and you can go quite far out. I mean, it's very shallow for quite some distance. And I'm 6'4", so for me to get out there and go neck deep, it's pretty deep. You look down, you can see your toes, like perfectly clear. It's like standing in your bathtub. The water is like 85 degrees. It's absolutely breathtaking. You get out there also, and if you stood still long enough, little fish and whatnot would come over and swim in between your legs and so on and so forth. Tons of people. There were always like parasailing, jet skiing, canoeing. There were all sorts of beachside excursions that you could partake in. There were a la carte. That wasn't included in any of the resort packages and whatnot. But for like $30, you could rent a jet ski. I think there was one of them parasailing, and they would strap a camera on you, or you could take your own camera, and you had like this breathtaking view of the resort for that matter. Once your day was done and you were done like baking in the sun for that matter, and dinner time is over, and you wanted to chill out, every night we would end our night at the beach again, and you were welcome to go there at nighttime and just kind of like hang out. So here you are, you had this complete opposite experience where now the sand is nice and cool and it's completely soft, and you just walk around barefoot, and it had all sorts of lights and stuff that were set up. Some parts of the beach were private depending on what package you have at the resort. We didn't have that package. This was like an adult only package. Obviously we have kids, so we didn't participate in any of that. So you weren't allowed on their side of the beach. But there were lights all over the beach and whatnot, street lamps or street lights for that matter. And then they always had some sort of like nighttime festivity that took place on the beach as well. So whether it be like these dance parties, or they have like little luau's and whatnot. Sometimes they do little cooking things, or they make burgers and dogs and chicken and stuff like that. They would ask you not to go in the water because there were no active lifeguards there, and we had no interest in doing anything like that. But just walking around and knowing how clean everything was and how soft everything was, I mean, look at that. That's absolutely beautiful. Not a cloud in the sky, barely, and we were lucky this time of year. It was actually a supermoon. So here we are getting a complete, unobstructed, no light pollution view of all the different stars and whatnot, and you can see the constellations, and you're just hanging out in these lawn chairs and just listening to the waves crash. I mean, if you know of a better scenario than that, you got me beat, because it was beautiful. And then just out of nowhere, like you just see a whole bunch of people like kind of storm the beach, and they'd set up these impromptu, fire sticks and whatnot, and you'd have guys dressed up and the various costumes and whatever. Here, there was like a Hawaiian theme that night, and I think they were doing something with the pig roast, and had like pineapple slices, and they had all sorts of different Hawaiian music, and the kids were allowed to go up there and dance, and it was just really cool way to wind down and kind of bookend the night. And going back to our personal experience, we were pretty lucky because due to the proximity where our room was versus the beach, it was very convenient, and we didn't have to wait for a trolley to come by and deal with things like that. So super 4-star review for the beach. This is probably the only resort that I've ever been to that had one major pool. I think they had a few satellite pools here and there for the kids and whatnot, but for the most part, there was one major pool here, and it was a bit concerning. I don't want to be just bound to one pool, but the reality was we actually had a good time in that pool. The pool was huge, and it had like a water fountain kind of thing going on in there, and it was just tons of little areas for the kids to jump off on, and a deep end and a shallow end, and it had places to kind of lounge out. There's like a rock there you can kind of just chill out on, these little makeshift islands in the middle of the pool. It was a big pool. If you go back to that satellite image I provided in the beginning, you can see how huge that pool was. So that was pretty cool. Again, I was concerned about it in the beginning, but there's really nothing to be concerned about. And you had your standard swim up bar and stuff like that. The one thing that we did note, it was actually my wife that pointed it out, the lack of chairs that were around the pool. Now, personally, I don't care about stuff like that, but some people value that kind of thing. And you always see the 6 a.m. crew, everyone running out there and vying for their pool seat. And here, case in point, if you look, this is 2 times. I only caught it once on film, but it's hard to see. These are 2 people that were fighting over a pool chair for one reason or another, and the staff actually had to intervene. It wasn't a fist fight, it was a verbal fight, but it started getting heated. I've never witnessed that at any other resort, and perhaps it had to do with the fact that there were so few seats, and some people get turned off by something like that. Me personally, I couldn't care less. I'm never going to sit in a seat, but to some people that's kind of important, so it's just worth noting. There were a lot of seats that were on the beach and tons of seats that were not occupied on the beach. They probably could have been brought around poolside, and but for whatever reason, the resort just felt that 6 here and 2 there and 5 there were more than enough. So take that with a grain of salt. And as important as the pools and the beach and the food are, and they all are important, let's talk about the room, right? Our room was very, very nice. There were 5 of us all together. So my wife and I, our oldest son, and the 2 girls. And how they accommodated us was, well, we're going into the room right now. Always clean, always kept very well. I mean, we just left the rooms. That's why it's a bit messy. But you've got your standard big bathroom here. You had a really, really clean, comfortable king-size bed, which we're accustomed to, so that was nice. And then you had 2 beds here for the kids. One was a top bed, obviously, and it was like a day bed situation. And you pull out the bottom bed, and, both girls will sleep there. And then our son slept in his bed. So all 5 of us were really, really comfortable. We were never, butting up against each other and whatnot. So it was a really big room, and it was always kept very, very well. So what can I say? In the end, we ate well, we drank well, we slept well, we swam as much as we could possibly swim, enjoyed the beach more than we even enjoyed the pool, and we enjoyed the pool quite a bit. Clearly, as you see, the resort is beautiful. Landscaping is always beautiful. The staff was very, very courteous to us, as we were to them. The kids had a blast. I mean, there was tons of activities for the kids to do, whether it be face painting, getting fake tattoos, making masks, painting the masks, so on and so forth. Would I recommend this resort? Yeah, it's nice. If you've got a family and you're looking to do something, this wasn't the most expensive resort. We had a great time. Would I go back there again? Probably not. I mean, I did it once, and I don't think there was a reason to go back a second time. There are other resorts I've been to, and I did like those better. But in the end, I have no regrets. We had a great time here. What I will do is conclude this video with that video that I promised earlier of the full trip from one side of the resort to the other, not sped up and in its entirety, so you have a full understanding as to what exactly I was referring to. And if you have any questions, let me know. Maybe your experience is a little bit different than ours. Please share it below. Let me know. Let everyone know. If there are any improvements, if there's been an increase or a decline in service there, share that. I mean, that information is gold, And, well, thanks for watching, and if there's anything you need to know, let me know.
¿Es una niña? ¿Ella es chiquitita? Sí se puede poner ahí.
mariposa amarilla, que son una especie de colina, entonces si ves ahí, bueno, la mariposa para la gente.
Peacock.
Yo lo vi. He's just standing there.
There's peacock. Let me saw you saw baby peacocks yesterday. You guys saw baby peacocks yesterday? How big were they?
Ahí. Pero como ojear ahí, que no lo puede ver. Aquí es la
No, los flamingos. Mira, sí, se pueden tomar una foto con
You got the first one, right?
Lo bajamos con el vamos ahí. Vamos a